289, percent of a quantity. Our essential question of the day, how do you find a percent of a quantity? Can I get somebody to read this sample problem here? Go ahead, ma'am.
A typical family of four uses about 400 gallons of water each day, and 30% of water is for outdoor activities, such as gardening. How many gallons of water does a typical family of four use each day for outdoor activities?
I actually looked this up because I thought that was a really high number. That includes about 25 gallons of water per day for washing clothes, 8 to 12 gallons of water for hand washing dishes, or I think it was like 7 to 9 gallons for a dishwasher. You need about 1.5 gallons or so of water to drink, plus showers, plus toilets. That's for a typical family of 4. The average person uses about 100 gallons per day. Seems like a really big number. Is anybody a bath taker as opposed to a shower? That's good. It is. It's about 38 to 40 gallons of water right there for a bath. My daughters both take baths because they don't like the shower. They're afraid of the shower. But they're 5 and 2. So. And they bathe together. Alright, so typical family of 4 uses 400 gallons of water. 30% of it is used for outdoor, like watering a garden, slip and slide, a pool. I don't know.
You can go where it's too warm.
How many gallons of water does a typical family of 4 use each day for outdoor activities? There are 2 ways to do this problem. Both of them I can't stand. I learned a completely different way of doing this. I'm going to teach you all 3 ways. I'll let you decide which is the best. Hint, that's just me. First way, it says draw a bar model. Okay. Bar models are fun because you get to use all sorts of pretty colors.
Oh boy, colors.
Okay, so let's start with, can you throw me that black marker, please? Throw it. Come on. We'll work on that. Alright, so the first thing you'll start off with is a number line. 0% and 100%. Hey, what's halfway?
50.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Whoop. And these are all percents. I'm not going to draw the percent sign 10 times. Then underneath, we have a bar. We have 400 gallons here. We have 0 gallons here. At the 50% mark, that's 200 gallons of water. Hold on a second. It goes by what? 50s?
You did them like at 800. No, go by 20. It ends at 4.
Well, if you look in their book, the chart, it's not numbered.
It's by the 10%.
Oh, it's by the 10%. So what we're looking at, this is 30%. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3 of these. 3 parts of that 400. So first thing we would want to do is find one of these. 10% of 400. Now, it looks like the way that they're showing you how to do this in your book, it's the same way. This is pictorially. Another way, we'll get to that
Could you show us your way?
momentarily. Because there's a couple different problems going on here. So, in order to find 10% of 400, we need to change the 10% to a fraction. And we did this last week.
So 10 over 400.
Not 10 over 400. 10%. 10 over 100. Which
Anything. Not a percent is all.
we could reduce that. Well, let's not reduce it. Let's not yet. Let's just go 10 over 100. What does the word of mean? Max. You don't know? Multiply. 10 over 100 times 400. If I give you a whole number, and we're talking about fractions, that whole number is always over
1.
1. Do you know how to multiply fractions? I hope so, because we did this. You just go straight across. What's 10 times 400?
4,000. And then that's 100. 4,000 over 100.
4,000 over 100.
Are we dividing?
I can't hear you.
Wouldn't it work if you divided 10 by 100 and then multiply the remainder by what you're taking out of it?
Wait.
Multiply 10 by 100?
And then times 4.
No, divide 10 by 100 and then multiply the number that
That's-
you're taking it out of.
Did you just think of that on your own?
My
That's
sister.
my method. That's the way I do it.
Yeah, she told me she knows.
I'm trying to show you the way your book does it.
That's
I'm trying to wrap my mind around it.
10
Well,
So here's what your book does. They actually do reduce this to 1 over 10.
Yeah. I wrote 10.
I just like the easy way.
I know.
Why are you showing us this one?
Just to humor the fine folks at Go Math, Common Core. Let's just take a look. 1 times 400 over 10. Then it's 400 divided by 10, which is
40.
40. Each one of those 10% units, these are 40 gallons.
80, 120, 160.
40, 40, 40. Your book says, then find the value of 30%. So we would do 3 times that 40. And you get
120.
120. $120 gallons. Okay? Where it says another way, it says multiply. You can find 30% of 400 by multiplying. 30% we know is what over 100? 30 over 100. That's one way to do it. Option 2, 30 over 100 times 400. Let's see here.
Get rid of the zeros.
You want to get rid of some zeros?
You only get rid of one.
Yeah, because
According to your book, you're not supposed to do that.
Why?
Not yet.
my book.
They do 30 over 100 times 400.
This book's
Let's see, 30 times 400, that's 1,200? No, 12,000
Can you do that?
over 100. 12,000 over 100, then you can get rid of your zeros.
That's 120.
Okay. Can I show you the way I learned it?
Yeah. Apparently, the tougher you
learned it is not a common core way. I can't say that it's wrong.
Shortcut.
Might be somewhat easier. I don't know. I'll let you decide. If I give you 30% of 400, of means multiply. 30% is what written as a decimal?
30 over 100.
That's a fraction.
Decimal.
You had your hand up, then you put it back down.
Percent turns in, percent to decimal goes to the left. I think it goes to the left.
Oh yeah.
Hey, if we're changing percents to a decimal,
0.30.
does it? Which way do I go?
Goes left. Goes left.
Two places to the
Left.
left, because this gets rid of, that fills in, 1, 2.
And then decimal
0.3
percent is 2, right?
or 0.30, doesn't really matter, times 400.
That's yours.
It's the same thing.
Hey, did you learn how to multiply with decimals?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. What's 3 times 0?
0.
What's 3 times 0?
12.
What's 3 times 4?
1.2.
We have one
to
decimal
the left.
place, right?
1 to the left.
That's the way I learned it.
That feels easier.
Yeah, that's way easier.
Try this. Find 65%.
But is there some like actions where you can't use this?
I think this works 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Try it.
65.
Down at the bottom of your page, 65% of 300. You could do it any way you want. You could draw a model, you could do the fraction thing, or you could do it my way. Take a few moments.
So you need it.
Don't worry about what's on the lines in your book. Do it the way you want to do it. So while you're working, I'm kind of thinking out loud here. I'm going to mentally guess what the number is. It's going to be more than 150. How do I know that? My percentage is more than what? More than 50%, and half of 50% of 300 is 150. So my answer is going to be more than 150, but not much more. Because I'm at 150, or I'm sorry, 50%, and that's at 65%. So I'm close. Not going to be 150. Yes, ma'am. What do you get for an answer? She got 195. What'd you get? Anybody get anything different? Brenda, how'd you do it?
I moved the decimal. I took away the percent and then moved it twice.
So you got 0.65.
And then I multiplied it by 300. And I moved it twice.
300 times 0.65. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 3?
15.
Now, when we're doing this, remember you got to have that 0 there. That's our placeholder. How many of you did the crazy lattice method?
I thought Dylan would do it.
Did you?
They And he did it.
I will break you on that habit. No, see, because I added that at the end. I don't want to
When we play football, I'm not gonna make a shape.
up that bad.
I'm not gonna make a shape.
Okay. 0, 0. 6 times 3 is 18. You got that extra 0 in there now, right? Now we just simply add these up. 0, 0, 5, 9, 1. I have 2 decimal places. 1, 2. 195. If you did it the way that your book did it, they did 65 over 100
You know, like,
times 300.
oh boy. Could you do 300 times 100 and then divide it by 65?
You could. You would get 30,000.
And then divide it by 65?
Your way is so much.
If we reduce these zeros out first, it's just 65 times 3 divided by 1. You still get 195. I've always been more comfortable with decimals. Man.
So, like, even if you do the book way, it's you can take away because
Hey, let me preface. There are 2 ways to do this. My way and the book way. Both will get you to the right answer. The easy way, it depends.
It's your way.
I like this way with the decimals. That's how I was taught. That was drilled into me from 6th grade to 12th grade.
Multiplication's easy.
This way is not bad if you like fractions. I'm not a fraction fan. I've always been a decimal fan. Gabby.
So when you do, like how you do it, like your percent, you're gonna change it into a decimal.
Right off the bat, I'm going to change it into a decimal. And then I'm going to multiply. Let's take a look at another example.
Like on the test, are they gonna mark your wall? Really get taught they don't get it this way?
On my test, no. On the air assessment or the park assessment or whatever we're taking now, I don't know. I don't think so. It might say show how you got your answer. And I would have an educational moral problem if you got the answer correct and you didn't show it using a bar graph. I mean, you got the right answer, right? It's right. I don't know. The state of education these days.
The metric system these days.
Hey, don't diss the metric system. I'm a big fan of the metric system.
The metric
Let's take a look. 80% of 50. 80% of 50. You can do this. Let's do it both ways. Let's do it my way. And let's do it the fraction way.
Would it still be the setup the same?
Absolutely.
The percent is bigger than the number.
Hey, she said, thank you. She said the percent is bigger than the number. The percent is never bigger than the number unless
It's
Wouldn't it
a
be
whole.
point?
it's bigger than 100%.
Wouldn't it be point?
This is 0.8. 0.8. 0.80 of 50. Or I can make it 80 out of 100 times 50.
So how do you do that?
80% is 80 out of 100.
Oh,
Now, let's do it both ways. 50 times 0.8.
that's easy.
There's your answer.
0, 40.
It's easy. Easy.
You got 40, correct?
Yeah.
Let me show you how to do it the book way. 80 over 100 can be reduced.
Get rid of the zeros. Oh, and then zeros.
That'd be 8 over 10. But we could kind of reduce that a little bit more and save ourselves some work. Do I want to do that?
Fish, yeah.
No.
Eight times 5 is 40. It's done. It's over. It can't.
Both get you to the same answer.
I like decimal.
Which one's easier? Well, this one here, you have to reduce, then you have to reduce again. This one here,
You should multiply.
decimals,
I'd rather take
multiply, and you gotta move.
I'd rather take no chances and get it right.
Either way. Which is the correct answer? Yes. Right? JB?
Yes.
Multiply 80% of 50. We go 0.8 times.
50.
Thank you. You're paying me for a good job. I got the camera on too, because kids.
Good. T-shirts, RoboCops, in case anybody wants to know. RoboCops, you know, you know,
Robo-Bikes.
school. No, RoboCops. Don't you make RoboCops?
Yeah.
That's the end product.
Well, you gotta edit.
Eventually.
You gotta edit
Show me your
this
hall
one.
pass.
Question.
If you look at like closely at like those two numbers, 80 and 50, can't you just like say 8 times 5 is 40, and then like add the 0 if it doesn't matter?
With easy numbers like this, yes, you can kind of think about it that way.
But aren't there gonna be way bigger?
There are going to be bigger numbers and weird percentages. I'll say something like, what's 23.5% of 96?
What? What's that?
So it'll get more complicated. Yes, what you're doing is what we're doing, what teachers are doing is it's called scaffolding. We're setting you up to build your confidence so that you can recognize patterns like
But I'm
that.
not-
But then at the same time, we want you to realize that the process, you still have to do it, the method, you still have to do it this way to get the answer.
I'm not looking at this first.
You're what? Okay, I didn't hear what you said. Let's take a look at the top of page 290.
Yay.
Back to Charla.
What?
I think we've talked to Charla before.
Charla?
Charla, is that? I don't know.
I think it's Charla.
All right, Charla earns $4,000 a month.
That's good.
She's not a teacher.
She will.
She earns $4,000 a month. She spends 40% of her salary on rent and 15% of her salary on groceries. How much money does Charla have left for other expenses? Step 1, find the total percentage of her salary that she uses for rent and groceries. Okay, so Charla makes $4,000
That's good.
per month.
That'll be awesome.
How much is rent?
40%. And then 15% of groceries. And you add,
Food is 15%.
you add those two.
So what is the question asking us?
How much?
How many does this time will have
The
left?
total percent of the rent and grocery?
I don't think that's what the question is asking. What are we looking
The total
for?
percent of, how much money does Sean have?
How much does she have left over after what?
Expense.
The expense.
Of? Expenses of what?
Oh.
Rent, groceries.
Rent and groceries.
Groceries. Oh my
So we want to know how much she has left after she takes care of those bills, right?
Yep.
Right?
Why don't we add them, like 45 or 15, then
Okay. Why do we want to add 45 and 15?
It's not-
Or 40 and 15?
It's
it'll give us a
55.
problem?
That's the total expenses.
so-
Okay, all right. So Max wants to add these.
55.
55%? Actually, I think that's in step 1. Yeah. Then it says, subtract the total percent from 100 to find the percent that she has left over.
Could you do just
Hold on a
point-
second.
point 55?
Let's pretend that this giant bag of money
belong
Yeah,
to
we-
Mr. Slipko.
oh,
Mr. Slipko's money.
That's the money that Charla makes each month. And 55% of it goes toward rent and groceries. So, if I graphed it, if I used a circle
It's
graph,
almost cut in
Wait,
half.
wait.
that's only 50.
We need about 55.
Okay, so 55% of it, rent and groceries. We want to know all of this. How much does she have left? What percentage of her pay does she have left?
45%.
45%. That was pretty easy. You just take the whole pay, 100%, and subtract out what she has to get rid of. So she has 45% left, but the question states, how much money does she have?
So
I don't want to know what percentage of her money. I want to know the actual dollar amount. So, is it any different from what we just did? So, class, what is 45% of 4,000?
45 times 4,000.
45%
With the decimal.
of 4,000.
With the decimal. Clue.
So let's do some math. Go.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Hey Tiffany, just because the numbers got really big, does that change anything? You're still doing the same process, right? Numbers are different. Okay. Oh, you're not scared. Roger, you're not scared. No, ain't scared. Yeah. Question.
Math. Who's doing last night?
Quit doing that minus method!
I put 40,000.
No, it's not.
Come here. We're going to do math. Go ahead, you guys keep doing math. Dylan and I are going to math it up. Here you go. We're going to have a contest. Lattice versus regular.
this problem.
Yeah. What's this?
Give him like a 10-second head start.
0.45.
Times.
Okay, ready? Set, go! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
10-second head
But
start.
it's quality.
10.
Dylan, what did you do?
Oh, well. You did, Dylan.
Mr. Slips says you know what?
Yeah, but you knew the answer before Dylan even started.
Done.
I messed up. I messed up.
That's the problem with that. You got in trouble.
I messed up.
Hey Dylan, what are you
It's
doing?
easier.
Right?
But I'd rather do
Shh,
that.
shh, shh.
Hey, he got it though.
Oh, no, 4 times 4 is not 8. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Adding.
What's your answer?
You forgot to add 20.
It's not 180. I think you moved your decimal point one too many times. 1,800.
He messed up though. It's not. I messed up. It's not speed. It's penis.
A worthy adversary.
I bet you I could penis.
At some point, those of you still doing that lattice method that you learned back in the elementary school, I will break you of that habit.
Good thing I never utilized. Leave your class this year.
No, in all seriousness though, if that's what works for you, just like, I'm not going to mark you wrong for doing the lattice method. I'll look at you funny.
He's gonna pick on it.
I won't pick on you to the point where you feel bad about yourself, but you'll get almost there. I understand how the lattice method works. The decimal point drives me crazy. I can't figure that out. If you just do this, yeah, it's a lot of zeros.
You can done.
2 decimal points. Man, I gave you
Give you 10-second head start.
Hey, did you get 1,800?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got
How did I know it was going to be 1,800? I knew it was going to be close to what number?
20,000.
$4,000.
Oh yeah.
Half of that is,
2,000.
and wasn't I finding 45%?
Yeah.
Which is pretty close to 50%.
So every 5%.
Is $1,800 close to $2,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only $200.
Let's see here. 25% of 320.
It says 25.
Hey, check this out.
32.
25%
30.
of
40.
320.
There's one to
Now,
32.
you can do this 2 ways. My way or the book way.
Your way.
The book way,
Your way way easier.
the book way is actually pretty easy. 25%, isn't that 1/4? Do you want me to say 25 over 100 and then reduce it? 25% is 1/4. 1/4 of 320.
25%.
It would be 1 times 320 divided by 4.
80.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you can do it my way. 320 times 0.25. That's 0. That's 0. Carry the 1. 5 times 3 is 15. 16. That's 0. 4.
6. Oh, 6.
80.
This one your way took longer.
Your way.
Oh, no, I didn't. Look how easy that
It
is.
just depends on which way you look at it.
Here's where my way gets really easy.
Big numbers with not zeros.
Twenty-four.
175% of.
So it's
24.
1.75 times 20.
Now, here's. Let's think about this before we go any further.
1.75.
Is my number bigger than 12?
Yes.
How do we know? 50% of 24 is 12. Is it bigger than 12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't my percentage bigger than 50? Is my answer larger than 24?
Yeah. So, no, I think 240. Here, who?
What's this?
100.
100%. Isn't that everything?
Yeah.
If you get 100% on your math test this week, don't you get all of the points?
Yeah.
Okay. So 100% of 24 is how much?
Well, if you think
That's
about
like all
25,
of 24.
Okay, so it's all of 24.
I don't get how to explain it.
How do you represent all of 24? 20. No, not 24 over 24. That's
24
only
over
1.
one.
Okay, let's do it my way. 100%, let's turn it into a decimal.
1.07.
or you can do
24 out of
one.
1.
So it's
24
one.
out of 1.
One whole. 24.
So class, how do you represent all of 24? 1 times 24 is? That's it.
Wouldn't it be 2.4?
No! 1 times 24.
No. After this.
Yeah.
The decimal is always
Oh. It's not.
We don't say I have it.
one decimal.
So if 100% of 24 is 24, if I go more than 100%, is my answer going to be more than 24?
Yes.
It is. It sure is. 175%, turn that into a decimal.
1.75.
1.75 times 24
I got it.
Oh, it's
You guys just,
is what?
you want to go do that?
Ooh.
1.75.
Now I got to write these in a weird order. Why am I writing the 1.75 up top?
Gets bigger.
Yeah, it's got 3 numbers. This one only has 2. Will I still get the same thing?
Yeah.
What's 2 times 3?
12.
What?
I mean, six.
What? What?
6.
Class, let's try that again. What's 2 times 3?
6.
What's 3 times 2?
6.
6.
You'll learn very soon that I believe is the commutative property. Hey, what's 4 times 5?
20.
0. Okay.
What's 4 times 7?
30.
28 plus 2 is 30. 4 times 1 is 4
7.
plus 3.
Placeholder.
Okay, so what's 2 times 5?
10.
What's 2 times 7?
15.
14 plus 1 is 15.
3,
Yeah.
0,
12, 4,
How many decimal places?
2,
175% of 24 is
42.
42. Whoa. That's kind of crazy. What if?
It says 25% of 32.4.
What?
Number 8, 291.
Number 8?
291.
We'll get there. We got one more to show you. I want to know 150% of 40. No, I drew the answer.
Really? Yeah. I saw it.
Oh, just do 15 times 4 and then add
15?
15.
Not 15.
Oh, no, 100%.
What's going on right here?
150% of 40. Hey, Tiffany, just because the numbers got different, does it change the method at all? Change it to a decimal. Multiply.
I'm saying like if you like take out that 0, 15
Quit taking out zeros. Change it to a decimal. Change it to a decimal. Listen, look. Change it to a decimal and multiply. Dude, just trust me.
I've already got the answer.
What do you want to do?
No, don't say that.
No, go ahead. You want to take out zeros?
Yes.
No, I wanted to take out.
Can't do that.
Hold on. Let her speak.
I wanted to take out like that 1 0 and then do 15 times 4,
What?
and then after we get that answer, you put the decimal point and then put the 0.
What would you get for an answer?
I don't know.
Okay, do
got
it your way.
60
'Cause,
as an
shh, do it your way.
What?
Okay. 100% of 40 is how much?
Wow. Yeah, everything's
100% of 40 is how much? Hey, do you see what I'm doing here?
40. I know.
100% of 40 is how much? 40. 50% of 40 is how much?
I don't know.
What's half of 40?
20.
That's what I got.
How did she get
That's
that?
what I
Because
saw.
15 times 4 is 60.
That's what I saw.
I don't
Yeah.
get it.
She was taken with a 0.
When you dropped it, I saw it. Like,
Okay, here's what she was doing. Ellie, you were doing this.
Does that work? That is one of our problems.
When you dropped it, I saw it land.
Okay, good. 15 times 4 gives me 40. Will that work every time? I don't know.
No.
No.
Let's take a look at number 8.
I got this.
25% of
It could work too. Because
32.4. I don't see any zeros to drop.
oh yeah, I think that they got
So,
0.
just be careful doing that, because I don't think that's going to work often enough to make it an exception. Hey, Tiffany, just because the numbers change, does it change anything that I'm going to do? Do you guys know what to do at this point?
Yes.
Let's see it.
What were the pages for homework?
I don't know. I'm worried about this.
What page do you want?
I'm not worried about homework. Let's just do this.
Oh, just 8?
Do this. 25% of 32.4.
I have no clue what I just did.
How do you have no clue? Just like Tiffany and I were just discussing. Nothing has changed. The process is still the same. Just the numbers are different.
But there's
If the numbers are different, does that worry you? I'm not afraid of different numbers. I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Are you sure?
Positive. First thing I'm going to do, Olivia, just joining us. I'm going to take this 25% and I'm going to turn it into a decimal. That becomes what?
0.25.
Correct. 0.25. The word of means multiply. 32.4.
How would you let them?
multiple.
How would I line it up? Just like this. 32.4 times 0.25.
It's a multiplication problem, so they
Yeah,
don't have
but
to
don't
line up.
the
They don't have to
decimal-
be lined up. It's
They do not have to be lined up because I'm multiplying. They only need to be lined up when I'm adding or subtracting.
So then when you get your answer, you would move it 30.
I have to move it 3 times because I got 1 decimal place here, 2 here. Let's do some math. 5 times 4.
20,
20. You want them up when you're
5 times
12,
2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 times 3 is 15. 16. Placeholder.
I got 81.
8, 4, 6.
81.
10,
0.
I messed up.
11,
Eight.
yeah, 8.
I got 8.1.
And then it becomes 8.1.
3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3.
It's 8.1.
It is? Did you just say
8.1.
Yeah, she said it was 81.
That is so weird. Sorry.
Because you got 3 decimals.
What is weird?
Oh, yeah.
I understand
I
this.
get it.
What's weird about it?
Okay, I get
What
it.
mistake
I
did you
get
just
it,
make?
I
Alright,
get it.
did you just make a mistake?
Yeah,
What'd you make?
because I was thinking that the decimal was before 4, so I just moved it 2 times.
Okay, so you got 81.
Yeah.
Now, if you get 81, here's how you can double check. 1/4 of, because that's 25%, 25% of 32. 25% is if I have $1, it's 1/4 of that. It's 25%, 25 cents. It's a little bit. Could I get 81 if I'm taking a little bit of this number? The only way I can do that is if it was more than 100%. Questions? Here's what I want you to do for homework. Page 293. 2 through 11. Huh? I talked to you last week about this. I said on Friday that that's what your homework is going to be on Monday.
I didn't go under.
Page 293, 2 through 11.
Ah,